Well, this patient had two previous surgeries before, so it was a secondary type case. The reason he had had the two previous surgeries was because he had been involved in he had tried to break up a fight in a bar, and he was hit in the face with a steel pipe, and it involved his orbit, his jaw, his upper jaw, and his nose. And he had already had two operations to correct the deformities that he suffered when he was hit in the face. And the other, everything but the nose was in pretty good shape. And so he came to see me. He was referred by a doctor in California. I get a lot of my patients by referral from other doctors. And he was referred by a doctor in California, and he came to my office to, have his nose made to look better. He was having some breathing problems, but he told me that appearance was his main concern. He said he was getting ready to do cut a record or do an audition. Maybe that's what it was, and he wanted to look his best. And he asked us to take a little fat out from under his chin and ask about jawline implants. But we told him we didn't do jawline implants, but we could take liposuck, some fat from underneath his chin, which was done also at the same time that we did the secondary rhinoplasty. What we did was that we did a secondary rhinoplasty, and we did a rib cartilage graft. We had to take some cartilage from his rib. Just the basic way you do a rhinoplasty is that you go in and you change the framework, and you build. And in the primary rhinoplasty, you're kind of changing the framework and remodeling the framework. In a secondary rhinoplasty such as his, he didn't have much to work with. And so we actually had to build a new framework. And to do that, we had to have something to build it with. We had to have the building materials to replace the bone and the cartilage that was messed up. And so we had to take, I think we took two pretty good sized pieces of rib to do his case. And then we completely rebuilt the framework underneath with rib, and really had what was a good result at the end of the surgery. I mean, the nose looked good at that time. The only thing that didn't look good was that he had some duskiness of the tip of his nose down here, which we noticed at the end of the surgery, and we thought that there may be some decreased vascularity to that tissue. And we started him on nitro paste, which is nitroglycerin, that dilates the blood vessels and everything. And so we were concerned about that after the surgery, that he was a little dusky. And we kept in contact with him, much more than we do our ordinary patient that doesn't show any signs of possible problem. Well, it's about a person who had been injured that came in and was not satisfied with the surgery that had been performed previously on his nose, and wanted to have a secondary rhinoplasty. I think that we explain the secondary rhinoplasty as well as could be explained to him, what the upsides were, what the downsides were. I think that if he listened, that he understood everything or should have understood everything about the procedure, and should have been well versed in what the procedure was about, and that there were risks involved in the procedure, especially in secondary rhinoplasty. And unfortunately, the surgery was done, and he developed a complication that was a very rare complication, but a very serious complication. I mean, it was, I'm not trying to downplay the complication, because it was a bad complication. But, that we gave him our best care when we recognized the complication as soon as it was happening. We were treating it. We were consulting with other physicians to see whether there were any other options that we had besides what we were doing. We referred him to super specialists to try to get this thing under control, and unfortunately, it ended up with him having to have more surgery, and it's very disheartening to me, as I know it is to him. But I don't know of anything that I could have done that would have altered the situation, except not to have operated in the first place.
So really, because of HIPAA, a physician's hands are tied if a patient makes accusations or complaints about the medical care that they receive.
Well, oh yes, those accusations can be false, and that's one thing that's wrong with the internet, is that things don't have to be substantiated to be put on there. Now, you can't go in there and just outright lie, I don't think, but you can put a lot of things on there that are questionable as to how they're used, and whether it's really the truth or not about what's being said. Well, I think what a lot of people don't understand was that the pictures that were put on there, and I think that are shown mostly, were pictures that were taken at a very bad time, in the timeline of this complication. He no longer has the forehead flap. That was something to get skin down to his nose, and the forehead flap has been replaced. I don't know what Michael looks like at this time, but I have talked to the doctor in Chicago who said Michael was doing well and that he is scheduled. It's not going to be cured with just the surgery that he's had. He's going to have more surgery. But the surgeon in Chicago who is treating him is optimistic that he can get it looking good, and that it won't be perfect, but he thinks that he can get it looking, where it's satisfactory. And so I think that that it's going to get better, and I just hope that Michael realizes that, and that we're pulling for him, and wish him the best. This was a very complicated case. It was complicated because it was a secondary rhinoplasty. It was complicated because of the amount of trauma that he had initially had. It was complicated because of where he lived, and to get to somebody to take care of him. And I think that everything was done that I could possibly do to try to treat this case correctly. I mean, the only thing that I know that I could have done any differently that would have helped would have been not to have operated on the patient. Well, I think that I would like Michael to know that I'm very sorry for what he's had to go through. But I do want him to know that I did the best that I could. The other people out on the internet, he's kind of got a club out on the internet now with people that have read this, and I'm sorry that they have had to listen to these things and not been able to hear both sides of the situation because of the HIPAA laws. And I'd like to get it over with as soon as possible. I hope that this kind of puts an end to all this stuff that's been going on, and that we can all go on our ways and do something productive, instead of spending our time slamming somebody.